Good morning.
Good morning.
Welcome to Mainline Unitarian Church, and welcome to all of you who are watching via YouTube. My name is Deirdre Gordon, a member of the Board of Trustees. Our worship team today is Reverend John Morehouse, our senior minister, Dawn Starr Saras Borschelt, our director of Lifespan Faith Development, Caroline Bright, intern minister, Paul Costa is our worship associate, and David Brown is our interim choir director, and we have our own MLUC choir today. We also have Jody Brown, our accompanist. We are a Unitarian Universalist congregation. Our denomination was formed by the merger of Unitarianism, which held that God is one, and Universalism, which asserted that whatever our ultimate destiny is, we are all sharing in it equally. Today, we come together to support our shared and individual quests for meaning and purpose in life, and to bring more compassion, justice, and responsible stewardship to our world. You are welcome here, no matter where you are in your spiritual and religious journey, no matter the color of your skin or the country of your birth, no matter your gender identity or expression or sexual orientation, no matter how much money you have or your level of education, you are welcome here. If you are visiting with us this morning, you are especially welcome. We hope that after the service, you'll join us for coffee and conversation in the fireside room directly across the hall, and stop by the visitors table in the atrium for more information. We're so glad you are here. There are two announcements. The first is the monthly lecture luncheon will be held this coming Wednesday, November 8th. There is no lecture this month, but there will be fellowship and sharing of a wonderful meal prepared by Chef Wolfgang. Please let Tim Conahan know by tomorrow, Monday, if you plan to attend. All are welcome. Now, Ron Rose has an announcement for us.
Hey, I have some great news I think will be welcomed by all of you. This will be the last announcement about the auction. Except for next week when we will announce the results. But I think we're in good shape. We want to at least meet what we did last year. Last year we had 115 things to sell in the silent and the live, and we had 100 bidders. This year we have 127 donations, thanks to all of you for your generous donations. And we have 91 bidders. But I have an intuition about these things. I'm pretty sure that those 91 bidders are going to outspend the 100 bidders from last year. So the auction's already started. The live auction started yesterday. If you haven't, the lives. The online started yesterday. Getting ahead of myself. The online started yesterday, and if you haven't joined in yet, you can still buy a bid number. You can buy it any time this week. Just go online and do that. And join in, because it works just like eBay. You'll get an announcement that you're the high bidder, and if somebody outbids you, get another announcement that you've been outbid. So you don't let your neighbor outbid you for something you want. So you go back in and join in for another round. It works really, really well. The live auction will be next Saturday night. Starts at 6. The doors open at 6, and the live auction starts at 7. With that many items, we put the extra items in the silent auction because we always try to keep the live auction at 50 items so we can do it in about an hour and a half, a little more than an hour and a half, so you won't be there all night. And we should be able to do the same thing this year, and unless I fall down these steps, then Valerie Sars will finish the auctioneering that night. So, okay, so we'll see you then. Don't forget to vote this week, and come to the auction on Friday or Saturday night. Thank you.
And now, please silence your electronic devices and join me in affirming our mission. Together, we transform lives through love, service, and our welcoming faith.
I'd like to invite the members of the Stepping Stone class and their teachers to come forward and light the chalice. Ready? We light this chalice to celebrate Unitarian Universalism. This is a church of open minds, this is a church of loving hearts, and this is a church of helping hands. And you're going to go back to your seats so we can listen to the choir.
This month, our theme is generosity, which just so happens to be one of our proposed Article 2 values. Generosity. We cultivate a spirit of gratitude and hope. We covenant to freely and compassionately share our faith, presence, and resources. Our generosity connects us to one another in relationships of interdependence and mutuality. All month, we will be discussing generosity of all kinds. And as we come together to worship this morning, I invite you to consider the idea of being generous with one another in our assumptions and our judgments. Whether this is your first time here or your 50th year, this is a community for you. If you're online or in person, this is a community for you. Temporary or permanent, we are here today in body or spirit, maybe even both, in community. So today, let us be generous with one another, assuming best intentions, judging kindly or not at all, and remembering that generosity is what connects us to one another in relationships of interdependence and mutuality. So come, let us worship together. Please rise in body or spirit as we sing hymn number 123, Spirit of Life.
This year, second and third grade children were invited to participate in our Stepping Stones program. In their classes, they learned about Unitarian Universalist history and visited with elder members of MLUC who grew up Unitarian Universalist. They learned about the people who make our church work and the rituals we celebrate as a community.
Stepping Stones is a rite of passage in which we recognize that our children are grown enough to begin to be responsible for expressing their own understanding of what it means to be part of the religious community, of this religious community. We've invited the children to tell us which you value, is their favorite, and why.
My name is Gigi. I am 8 years old.
And Gigi chose love.
My name is Bridget and I am 7 and I chose love. My name is Audrey and I'm 8 years old and I chose justice. I just like justice. My name is Lila. I'm 8 years old. My favorite principle is generosity because I like helping. My name is Evan and I am 8 years old. My favorite one is transformation because I like Transformers. I'm Caitlin and I'm 8 and I think it's welcoming faith because I like welcoming people. My name is Wyatt, and I'm 7 years old, and I chose transformation. My name is Sam, and I'm 7 years old. I chose equity because I just think that's my word.
Awesome.
Thank you. We also have one other kid, Julian Gard, who isn't here today, but we recognize him as well. So in recognition of their completion of the Stepping Stone program at MLUC, we have a certificate for each child, which I'm going to come out and hand out later because I would have to read them and figure out which one goes to which one, but they're very pretty. They look like this. And we have clay stepping stone necklaces for each kid, which Reverend John has and is going to hand out. And we also have a stepping stone, which the kids made together in class with our clay lady, Rachel Locke, which will hang on the wall in the beginner's room. So if you have a meeting in there, you'll see it, along with a whole bunch of other ones from other years. This class will also be helping prepare the coffee hour treats for you today, so when you see them, you can congratulate them and thank them. Can we give them a round of applause? And one last note as we go to classes, if you're in kindergarten or first grade and you're an OWL, your class is meeting upstairs today, not in the library.
Our offering outreach partner for the month of November is Soul's Shot Portrait Project. we have our own Kit Burns here to tell you about their important mission.
The recipient of MLUC's November offering outreach is Soul Shot Portrait Project, SSPP. It's a registered nonprofit organization whose mission is to use the transformative power of art to bring an end to gun violence. Artists working with families create portraits to honor the soul shot by exhibiting the resulting artwork to the public. The project invites the community to recognize what has been lost and to take action to end gun violence. MLUC hosted an exhibition of portraits last March. SSP produces a full-color catalog which is provided free to each artist and family friend participant and is sold to the general public. It's the project's only fundraiser. Exhibitions are free and open to the public. It's a donation support expenses like hanging supplies, van rental, printed materials explaining the project and offering further resources and other outreach. Funds are also needed for professional videographers and online exhibition assistance. The organization aligns with UU Principle Number 1, the inherent worth and dignity of every person, and Number 2, justice, equity, and compassion in human relations. Its website is soulshotportraitproject.org. Laura Madeline is an artist and the executive director. Please give generously. Thank you.
Thank you, Kit. If you would like to make a donation online, follow the instructions that you see on the screen behind me. If you are in the sanctuary and forgot your wallet but have your phone, scan the QR code that is on the order of service and you can make a cashless donation. The offering will now be gratefully received.
So we're going to try something a little different, new for you, I think. What I like to do with the offering is have it come back to the chancel so that we can recognize the gifts that you have given to your community, to your congregation, and to affirm our gratitude to move us forward in the culture of generosity that I know we all want to embrace. So I am going to invite you now to bless this offering with the words that are on the screen and the affirmation of gratitude. Let's say this all together. Let us be grateful when we are able to give, for many do not have that privilege. Let us be grateful for all those who share their gifts, for we are enriched by their giving. And let us be grateful even for our needs, so that we may learn from the generosity of others. Thank you.
Candles of Community is MLUC's ritual of personal sharing and support in a trusted and safe environment. After each candle is lit, please join me in saying, "We hold you in our hearts." Beth Johnson mourns the passing of her daughter-in-law, Diana Giorgiuti, the wife of Beth's son, Greg, who grew up at MLUC. Greg and Diana had moved to Sydney, Australia to be near her family as she underwent cancer treatment. Diana was a caring auntie to many nieces and nephews, an all-around beautiful person, and a talented visual effects producer for Marvel Studios. For Beth Johnson, her son Greg, and the entire Johnson family, we hold you in our hearts. Nuala Carpenter would like us to light a candle for Pam Costi, who had surgery on the retina of one of her eyes this week. The surgery went well, and she is recovering at home. For Pam, we hold you in our hearts. Anne Clark notes that Betty Graham is turning 101 on November 10th. So we light a candle of joy for Betty. Betty, we hold you in our hearts. Lilia and Kate Weber would like to share a joy that they are now grandparents. Their daughter, Anna, and son-in-law, Dan, gave birth to Connor Matthew Robinson. For Lilia and Kate and family, we hold you in our hearts. And I believe Ron Rose has something to share as well.
Thank you. This is not another auction announcement after the last announcement. It's a sub-announcement. I forgot something. We are still looking for volunteers to bring food for the live auction night. Not entrees, just finger food. So if you would stop by the auction table when you're buying a bid number, then sign up to bring food for next week. Thank you.
I would have thought that was one that's too deep for words, but apparently not. And so for all of those joys and concerns that are being held, some too deep for words, we light a candle and we hold you in our hearts. This week's reflective reading is Food for the Spirit by Mary Wellemeyer. In one church, it was meals, prepared and frozen to be shared with those in need. Food was handed out at the door or taken to where it was needed. In another church, it was casseroles, brought to families whose strength was consumed by illness or disaster. Small gestures, these, little hairs on the roots of community, reaching into the soil, drawing the nutrients of earth. When we sing together, share a meal together, make soup together, The hairs on the roots reach out then too, nourishing us in ways beyond the ways we may think we know. The dark soil is full of nutrients we feed without knowing.
Thank you, Paul, and welcome everybody. Good to see you. You have to get here early to get a parking space. It's a good thing I have my own. Actually, I even have a house here. Who knew that? I want to begin, as I often do, with a story. His father told him that he was going to meet a real holy man, a saint. The boy wasn't sure he wanted to meet a saint, but he went along. It was a small country church on a hot spring day. The place was full, but not so full as to warrant turning around. And the boy sat in the back with his father. When the time came to take communion, he went up to the rail with his dad. They kneeled. He'd never taken communion before, and he was unsure what it meant or exactly what to do. His father had told him that it was a sacrament, an inward sign of spiritual grace, a way to be healed. The boy took the wafer into his mouth and sipped the grape juice, which was pretty awful. But then the priest put his hand on the boy's head and said in the softest voice he's ever heard, "Bless you." The boy had never been blessed before, but he sensed that something special had happened to him. When the service was over, his father wanted to stay longer so he could watch this priest some more. His father was drawn to this priest in some way. After most of the parishioners had departed, Father Vega, that was the priest's name, was approached by a big, red, beefy man who started jabbing his finger at the priest. "Father, there are people in this church," he said, "important people, you know who they are, and they want an air conditioner. And I tell you this, Father, if this air conditioner thing isn't sorted out, there will be big trouble." Father Vega just stood there, his face not really changing. And it was one of those moments where everything froze, and everyone just stood there so that the boy from where he stood could see everything. He could suddenly see that there were two worlds. The world of the big, red, beefy guy. He lived in the world of air conditioners and power and cars and church politics. And this priest lived in another world, a world in some ways more frightening than this first one because it was more powerful, a world where love and angels were as real as evil and hatred, a world in which Jesus had walked and talked and sweated and died, a world which needed saving with love and compassion. And for a moment, the boy saw a world where there was mercy, where there was justice and hope, not as abstractions, but all real in the face of this simple country priest. And the boy also realized for the first time that there was this other world, both apart and yet separate in the world in which he lived, the world of school and parents who were fighting and bullies. For a moment, he saw that there was this world of generosity and abundant grace that was peopled by people like Jesus and Schweitzer and Mother Teresa and Martin Luther King and Hosea and Clara Barton and this Father Vega. It was for a 12-year-old boy something of an amazing revelation. The boy saw all this in that silence that followed the barrage by the big, red, beefy guy standing over Father Vega, waiting for an answer. And Father Vega looked at him with kind eyes and put his hand on the man's shoulder and simply said, "Bless you," and then walked away. The big, red, beefy man was stunned by a grace he could not understand, and he shook it off. Father Vega was fired 3 months later. This story comes to me from my late colleague, Kit Howell, who's been gone well over 20 years now, who served our congregation in Lancaster just up the road. It illustrates, I think, the clash between what I see as two worldviews, the worldview of scarcity and the worldview of generosity. Now, it's easy. It's very easy. They get sidetracked like the big red beefy man to believe that all that exists is power and politics, and there's only so much to go around, and the world is a zero-sum game. The winner takes all and losers do without. We look at bottom lines alone, we will find that we can only afford this or we can only afford that. I think about that a lot when I think about church budgets, which some people think are sacred scripture. They're just budgets. They're our best guess. But more importantly, they are moral documents. The culture of scarcity is the world that you see around you most of the time. The world of Wall Street, of taxes and politics. The world of the wars that tear us apart by those who think they are right and the others are wrong. This is the world of privilege and fear. If I don't guard against what I have at all costs, I may have nothing. Indeed, fear is the driving force in this world. We see our lives as not enough money, not enough time, not enough good health, not thin enough, not happy enough, not enough. Can you hear me? But I believe there's another world that's out there. And this is the world that I hope overlaps this world of scarcity and fear. This is the world that can do more for one another. We are here each Sunday, friends, to remind ourselves of what matters most. It's perhaps the most important question you can really ask yourself as you live your life. Define the generosity in the midst of struggle. Many of you know Rabbi Harold Kushner, who wrote When Bad Things Happen to Good People many years ago. I consider him to this day one of my spiritual heroes. He authored many books, but he called this kind of living, this living of abundance and generosity into the world of scarcity and fear, he called that the faith of integrity. Because we do live in both these worlds, don't we? We live in the world of success and failure and bills and money and troubles. And then we live in this other world, I think the greater world, the world of meaning, the world that leads to hope, the world that leads to love. And too often, I think, we keep those worlds in our separate pockets, don't we? I hear people say this. Occasionally they say, well, I'm this way on Sunday, but you know, I got to go back into the fray on Monday. And boy, that's tough, isn't it? That is tough. But we can live in both worlds, and we can let the culture of generosity override the other one more often than not. So I want to start today by asking you, and I will be doing this throughout the month, what matters most to you? What matters most to you? So we're going to do what we do. We're going to break into whatever groupings you want. You use, you figure it out. What matters most to you is the question I'd like to have a discussion for just a few minutes. Go ahead. All right. You know, I think that's my favorite part of the sermon, when you do all the talking. I love that. That's great. Thank you. It's wonderful. It's great to feel the energy. You're still talking. I love it. So just a quick shout out. What were some of the things? Just like one word. Family. Friends. Health. Being a good example. Again? Kindness. All right. Wow. You know what you did there? Nobody mentioned a thing. You didn't talk about your car. Somebody mention a car? No. What'd you say? Food. That's energy. That's good. Food is good, yeah? You know, I know that all of us have valued the wrong things at some time in our life. I certainly have valued the wrong things. One of my favorite poems for a while was Shel Silverstein. It's called The Scarcity Prayer. Now I lay me down to sleep. I pray the Lord my soul to keep, and if I die before I wake, I pray the Lord my toys to break. So none of the other kids can have them. Studies have shown that the more money you have, and this is social science here for what that's worth, the more money you have, the more you believe that you are self-sufficient, that you are an individualist, that you don't necessarily need other people. And what happens when you do that? You stop being as generous as you could be to others. All kinds of studies have shown this over and over again. It's not true for everybody, but it's true for a lot of us. I know that when I value money over and security over love and relationships, which I think I spent most of the first half of my life doing, I found my heart tightening. As Jesus would say of the Pharisees, I was a tight-hearted one. I'm convinced that believing in scarcity over generosity had led to my high blood pressure and my ongoing struggles with weight. But if I am able to value people in my life in their moments of brilliance as they rise around me, I find an abundance in the midst of all the struggles of our lives. And I know this is not always easy. My colleague Heather Jennels says that it is easy to feel grateful in times of abundant stability and joy. The spiritual challenge is to find gratitude in times of struggle, right? The challenge is to be present to the things that make us afraid or deplete us. It is the challenge to find gifts in even those lessons. Because being generous isn't always about what's good in life. It's also about dealing with the pain of life. And that can mean that you're spending time with someone that's hurting, someone in this room, a family member. You have no idea what your simple presence can mean to someone who is hurting. You don't have to say words. I learned this after many years of being married. Don't say words. Just be there. Just be there. It's difficult, I think, when life comes at you in bulk, because we often find ourselves swimming in painful situations. And how often do we think the world is ganging up on us? Anne Lamott, one of my absolute favorite authors, said that whenever she doesn't think she has enough, she gives some of it away. Amen. When my close friend Bob was fighting cancer and his wife left him, not because he had cancer, there's another reason, his business also went bankrupt. He had what I would call an abundance of misery. And still, his soul was resilient through it all because of his practice in believing in generosity. And as he looked at his life, he saw that it was still full of treasure in the years he had. His children still talked to him. His grandchildren still loved him. And he had relationships with his friends that were richer than ever. You know, I hear this often from people who are dying on their last days, going down that long path, the setting autumn of their lives. These are sometimes the most poignant and powerful moments you will ever live, as if the mind and the soul are focusing all of our energies on living as fully present as we possibly could, with no distractions. Beyond the fear of dying, beyond the fear of the unknown, life can seem even brighter and strangely somehow more possible, even in the face of death, because of the people that you've touched and left behind. As Hafiz wrote, "How did the rose ever open its heart and give to this world all its beauty? How does it still find encouragement and light against the dying?" Observing and living in generosity has a great deal to do with how we look at time. Time is that resource that we somehow have quantified. It is said we gained an hour last night. Did we? Well, where was the lost hour? And how do you adjust to time differently? Observing abundance in our lives is like looking at time differently. Many of us, myself included, are anxious about what I can get done in a period of time. And bless my staff for finally learning that I need to be calmed down occasionally. I'm not angry, I'm just nervous. You know, like, it's okay, Reverend John. Because it is. When we stop programming so much into our lives and find a little more space in there, that's where this begins. The generosity begins in our own hearts. The generosity begins when we let time simply have some space. What's really going on with time? How many of you actually take a day off? Be honest now. That's not a lot of you taking a day off. I got to tell you something here now. How about an afternoon off? Dedicated afternoon off. Do I get more hands for that? Okay, good. That is probably America's greatest, well, not the greatest sin, but one of its better sins, is not taking any time off. I try to take Fridays off. It's more of an idea and an ideal than it is in reality at the moment, but that is what I hope to do, and I learned that from my rabbi friend. And I learned the importance of actually having a Sabbath, having a day to just let it go. But it's not easy, right? It's not easy. As Walter Bergerman wrote, the market ideology wants you exhausted because exhausted people make terrific shoppers, terrific spectators, terrific couch potatoes on their computers. Exhausted people do not make for transformers in communities. Exhausted people don't do that. Rested people are the dangerous ones. Sabbath is a profoundly subversive practice, he wrote. It's an act of resistance. Why is it that when we're at the end of our life, some of us regret what we didn't do? Couldn't we instead celebrate what we did do? Because I'm going to bet it's pretty awesome. And generosity and gratitude are sisters. I use this idea a lot. One is possible because of the other, which is why we're reinvigorating our stewardship program here with the idea that it's based in gratitude, that we thank you for your gifts. We thank you for your time and your talent and your treasure. We all know, of course, that studies have shown that as we get older, time speeds up, right? And there are a lot of theories about that. One of them is that we just have more things to compare it to. When we're younger, time just drags. But of course, time doesn't do anything at all. We do it. And as we grow older, we will worry about the future, but in part, we could let go of the worry because we don't have that much more time to worry about. If you follow me here. When you're young, you say, oh, I could make friends. Sure, why not? I like people. Or you don't. But when you're older, you're a little more discriminating, right? Studies have shown that people in their 60s and 70s tend to be the most happy people on earth. You know why? Why do I see so many happy faces out there? Because you're more discriminating about your friends. And you don't suffer fools lightly or gladly. And you don't stand on lines for too long, right? Once we realize this, we can be blessed with a kind of generosity that we may not have thought we had before. I used to be a real penny pincher. I could make the Indian ride the back of the buffalo, as they used to say. And I never gave money to anybody who didn't earn it in some way, or as I thought they did. Until I was walking down a cold street in Chicago, and I met a messenger, a panhandler on the street. I passed him by, ignoring his very humanity, which I'm not proud of. And as he saw me go by, he said, "Bless you anyway, sir." I went, oh, man. I stopped. I turned around. He was my age. I was like late 30s, early 40s at the time. And I was like, wow, thank you. I emptied my pockets and gave him everything I had. Because I know that in the generous life and spirit that you have to be able to let go. And be thankful that you can let go. And if we move towards this generosity in our lives, if we move towards the attitude of gratitude, as they say, we will find ourselves as people in a congregation able to do amazing things, more amazing things than we're already doing. The Interfaith Housing Network has a family staying with us this week. That's an amazing thing we do. It's an amazing thing that we use our offering to make the mission of outreach organizations that are our partners work. It's an amazing thing that so many of you give so much of your time to making this place run, that teachers teach our kids, that the choir sings, that the tech guys make all this work, that the ushers are here, the worship associates, the people who count the money. All of that is love in action, friends. All of that is generosity. I already see within you a congregation that is just fine, better than fine. You're better than fine. You have, 53 small group ministries or something like that. I lost count. I'm meeting with so many of you. You're already a congregation of generosity, and I love to see it in you, and I would love to see you all at the auction, of course, on Saturday as well. There, Ron. To further this culture of generosity, friends, we need to keep in mind that we have more to give than we think we do. I think of that line that I heard not long ago. If we're worrying about how much we can afford to give, we're asking ourselves the wrong question. Maybe the question is, how much do I need to keep and give the rest away? This is what Father Vega was doing. He wasn't naive or stupid. He knew the big, red, beefy man had power, and in his simple blessing, he was saying, yes, I heard you about the air conditioner, and in your concern, you are blessed. In your anger, you are forgiven, because it's probably not about the air conditioner. Ultimately, it's about being unhappy and your weight and being uncomfortable, and an air conditioner and your power over that air conditioner seems like a solution. And what Father Vega may have really been saying is, perhaps with this simple blessing, you'll stop your life long enough to see what really matters here. We become generous in first appreciating what we have. We don't have to clear off our desk to do it. The messy desk is just a sign that we have a full life. Many years ago, I knew a woman who lived her life very neatly. And when she died, her daughter, who was a member of the church, gave me a set of Wedgwood china teacups. The saucers, the whole deal, little pot, little creamer thing. Her mother had bought these years ago and kept them in a box and had never used them. And her daughter said to me, "Can you believe it? They've never been used." And she gave this to me as a symbol of what could be, that what we have is ours to give. And she said, "You have a family, you'll use them." All right, I'll use them. And we did. And within a year, all of them were broken. Because at that time, we had little kids. And before they were broken, they were served, and they served elegance and beauty. Coffee, tea, milk, apple juice, served mouths, young and old, with little hands holding on to both ends, to people holding a pinky up. But they were all broken. And I thought about those teacups as I was writing this sermon, and I thought, people in pain and people in joy sit before those teacups all the time, and they hold them in feeling hands. And before those teacups were broken, they had witnessed all of life's holiness. Same cups, same saucers, moving from symbols of scarcity to symbols of abundance. The question is not what I can afford, but what I need to keep. Our ministry together, my dear ones, my beloveds, is this. We live generously when we see that our giving to one another with the love, talent, and treasure that we have brings out the best in us. We become whole when we ask for and accept healing, which is why the last line of that affirmation is there. We are grateful even for our needs so that we may learn from the generosity of others. Generosity should be our middle name. And from here, we will see a new world, the other side of the scarcity world, the world of Father Vega and broken teacups, the world that teaches us that the more we give, the more we have, and we become healed and holy and live abundantly. And this is our reason for living. So may it be, and amen. Our closing hymn is number 17, Every Night and Every Morn. Please rise in body or spirit. There we go. I just suck to you and to serve you and to serve the world that is in need of so much love, I want us to go forth from this place with the love and generosity of heart that is ours and make a little corner of the world a better place. Let us remain seated for the postlude.
And please note that at the conclusion of the postlude, the multi-generational choir will be rehearsing in this very room. If 5 minutes pass, you're still in here, I'll assume you're singing with us.